The name of the movie is The Girl with All the Gifts. The movie opens with a girl named Melanie having woken up, getting dressed and getting ready for some reason. Until the guards entered the cell, she welcomed them, but they did not answer her. All the guards care about is that they handcuff the girl's hands and feet to the wheelchair. Then they take her and we see another group of children there. All of them were wheelchair bound. They put Melanie in a row, and every row has a number on it, and that number is each person's cell number. Melanie asks the teacher to tell a story about a legend. Indeed, the teacher tells them about one of the legends. When the teacher finishes reading the story, the guards come to take them back to their cells. The guards open Melanie's handcuffs, but they are clearly afraid of her. When it's dinner time, Melanie is given a bowl full of worms. The next day, a doctor named Caldwell comes to visit Melanie, where Melanie was able to solve the puzzle that the doctor gave her a few days ago. So Caldwell gives her a new riddle about Schrodinger's cat. She asks her if this cat is alive or dead, but she does not know the answer. The doctor writes notes about Melanie's style and asks her to tell her which number comes to mind. She tells her number 13. After that, the guards come and take Melanie out of the cell. She notices that cell number 13 is closed. She is surprised because she knows that all the cells have their doors open at such a time. After that, she goes to the class where she notices that the person in cell number 13 is not in the class. The teacher asks them to write a story. All the children start writing a few words except Melanie, who was excited and wrote a lot. After that, the teacher asks them to read what they have written. Melanie starts reading, as she wrote in her story that she is the heroic savior of all who exist, and she is the one who will save the world. The teacher was moved when she heard that and started crying, so she went to Melanie and put her hand on her head. But suddenly the alarm sounds and Sergeant Parks comes and tells the teacher that touching children is forbidden. He reminded her of the reality of these children, so he brings his hand close to one of the children. We notice that strange things happen to the child and he tries to bite the hand of the sergeant. It is not only this child who tries to bite his hand, but all the children present. After class, the guards take the children back to their cells. Sergeant Parks comes to Melanie's cell and supervises her uncuffing. She provokes the sergeant, so he decides to leave her handcuffed as punishment. After a while, the teacher comes to Melanie's cell. She sees her tied to the chair and feels sad, so she decides to enter the cell. When the teacher approached Melanie, a strange incident occurred where Melanie tried to bite the teacher, but she tried to control herself and asked the teacher to get out of the cell as soon as possible so as not to be in danger. After a few moments, Dr. Caldwell comes to Melanie and asks her to tell her a number that comes to her mind. She tells her number 4. This number is the same number as her cell. The next day, the guards come to her, and instead of taking her to class, they take her to the elevator. Then they take her to the roof of the building. She notices a large number of zombies trying to get through the building's barrier as the guards were shooting at them. She gets scared. Meanwhile, Sergeant Parks takes her to Dr. Caldwell, where she questions her about Schrodinger's cat. But Melanie doesn't know anything, so the doctor tells her that this cat is alive and dead at the same time, and she looks like her. Then another doctor comes along and injects Melanie with an anesthetic needle. After that, they open her chains and transfer her to a bed for surgery, where she was also chained. Teacher Justino arrives, and she was carrying a fire extinguisher, and she is angry at them and attacks them. She tells them that she will not allow Caldwell to harm Melanie, but tells her that these measures are for everyone's safety in an attempt to make her calm down. When the teacher calmed down, Caldwell sprinkled hot pepper on her eyes, as she told her that she would extract a vaccine from Melanie in order to save the world. Meanwhile, the guards come and take the teacher out. Then we notice the alarm sound in the place. Caldwell asks her colleague to lower the curtain so that they can start performing the surgery, but the zombies attack them and break the window and bite the doctor. Caldwell tries to save the doctor and tries to kill the zombies, and indeed she succeeds, but she suffers an injury in her hand. She notices that the other doctor has turned into a zombie and is attacking her, so Caldwell flees the room in order to save herself. We notice that the doctor who turned into a zombie does not approach Melanie. Melanie notices a scalpel next to her, so she grabs it and untied her handcuffs. When she went out, she noticed that the zombie place had completely taken over the place, and that there were also guards trying to beat the teacher she tried to save, so she got angry and attacked the guards. Unfortunately, she lost consciousness. The teacher decided to help Melanie and took her to the military vehicle. This car belonged to Sergeant Parks and his soldiers, where they escaped from the place that was taken over by zombies. After a short while, the sergeant stopped the car in a secluded place because he noticed the presence of the teacher, the doctor, and Melanie. The teacher opens the door and Melanie comes out and asks her to run away. The doctor was not satisfied with the teacher's behavior. When Melanie moved away from the car, she was surprised and shocked because she did not see such a scene, as she had never seen the outside world. The doctor and Sergeant Parks have been trying to get to any colony to protect them, but no colony agrees to protect them. They continued to search for any food or water, but they did not find anything but the mask. Then Sergeant Parks developed a plan in order to reach an area in London free of zombies. Parks and his men considered all the people who were in the place they left dead or turned into zombies. They put a mask on Melanie's face and tie her to the chair in the car, after which they go to the river to drink water. But they are surprised by the presence of a group of zombies attacking them. They defend themselves by shooting them. A zombie managed to bite one of them. Sergeant Parks killed this soldier after he turned into a zombie. When the sergeant learns that Melanie is still with them, he becomes angry with her. Melanie asks about the zombies, and Caldwell tells her that they were normal people, but they were infected with a fungus that is transmitted during the bite, and thus the infection passed on to them. Moments later, the car broke down, so they were forced to complete the path on foot. They decided to take a shortcut, but this road is very dangerous because there are zombies in it. They were forced to walk this way in order to get food and drink. They arrived and were walking next to zombies while they were sleeping. Caldwell notices that a mother is pushing her baby's stroller, and she notices that the baby's leg is moving. When she removed the cover from the child's face, she noticed that the mouse was eating it. She gets scared and screams loudly, causing the sleeping zombies to wake up. The soldiers killed the zombies who had woken up and then left. On the way, they find a hospital and enter it. Parks searches inside the hospital and finds a hole in the ceiling, so he decides to enter this hole. He thought they were safe, so he went to look for food and water in the hospital. Melanie asks Caldwell how she became a zombie. She tells her that they found her with a group of children in the maternity ward in the hospital, and she tells her that she and all the children were infected during pregnancy and that the infection was transmitted to the children through the placenta, and thus they became zombie children, but they have feelings like humans. Then the teacher gives new clothes to Melanie after she found the clothes in the hospital, and she also apologized to her because they did not find food or water. At night, Parks speaks with Justin O, where he tells her that Melanie is clearly attached to her. She tells him that this is obvious and she noticed it. We see the soldier Dylan while he is guarding Melanie. She tells him that she is not a monster and that she is an ordinary human being and will not harm anyone. But Dylan is not convinced of her words. The next morning, they see a large group of zombies in front of the hospital. Melanie suggests that she go outside to distract the zombies from the hospital, but Parks refuses. But after thinking, he did not find any solution, so he agreed. Melanie took off the mask and walked out of the hospital, continuing to walk toward the zombies. She saw a cat and her zombie nature overcomes her, so she attacks the cat. When she entered a house, she found a dog, so she takes this dog and throws it as bait in front of the zombies so that they can get away from the hospital. Afterwards, she returns to the hospital, where Parks is proud of her and gives her the mask. Then they continue their way towards London. While walking, they notice zombie corpses, and these corpses produce a type of fungus. Caldwell tells them that this may be one of the stages in the fungi's life cycle. Then they continue on their way, as they notice that the number of zombies has become very few, similar to what they were watching. Then they notice a large mass of fungus. Caldwell tells them that because of this fungus, the disease will spread throughout the world and that no one will be able to control this disease. Meanwhile, they find a mobile lab, they find a walkie-talkie and are happy about it, because they will be able to communicate with uninfected humans. Dylan tries to communicate with any colony to include them, but they fail for the second time. Suddenly, Melanie tells them that she is hungry, so they take her out to find food and return to them. She goes out to search for food, and indeed she finds food. When she finished, she started crying because of what she had done. Then she hears a voice coming out from a bookstore. When she goes, she finds a group of children communicating through their own language. She discovers that they are zombie babies just like her, and Melanie is able to understand what they are talking about, where there was a child talking to them and giving them a new plan. She was so surprised. Caldwell feels an excruciating pain in her hands as she tells Justino that they have blood poisoning, and that they have to discover the vaccine before they die. Justino discovers that the doctor wants to use Melanie's brain and spine to make the vaccine, but she refuses and gets angry with her. Melanie comes and tells them about the kids. She tells them that they want to hunt Dylan and they are planning to do it. They were all shocked and went out to find Dylan. After that, we see Dylan looking for food and finding a lot of it until he reached a supermarket. After he entered, he ate the food, but when he raised his head, he found child looking at him, so he runs away from her, but she continues to pursue him. The chase continues until all the children surround him and attack him. Melanie can smell Dylan and takes them to the supermarket, but they find him dead. Suddenly, Melanie tells them that they also fell into the trap because when they went out they found the children surrounded the place. But Melanie kills their leader, as she actually managed to protect them. After that they come back. When they entered they smelled a strong drug smell. Indeed, when they sleep after inhaling the drug. It turns out that Caldwell did this in order to create the vaccine. But the pain in her hands distracts her, and suddenly when she turns, she finds Melanie behind her. The doctor tried to convince her to surrender in order to save the world. Indeed, her plan succeeds and convinces, but Melanie decides to ask her before she dies. Is she a human or is she imitating them? The doctor gives her the same answer he gave her earlier. Melanie tells her that she does not have to die in order to save humanity and that there must be another solution. So she decided not to turn herself in. Caldwell tries to catch up with her, but she can't find her. After that, the doctor notices the zombie kids surrounding her. Then she notices that Melanie is burning the fungus in order to activate the existing fungus. Melanie didn't know that Parks had come to save her, but unfortunately it moved to him to infection. Before he turns into a zombie, he hands the gun to Melanie and tells her to kill him, which she does. The next day, Justino wakes up and finds out what happened to Melanie, where she was standing outside the laboratory. At last, peace is achieved between zombies and humans. Whereas zombies have never been exposed to humans. Justino teaches kids about the whole way of life. If you want interesting movie recaps like these, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.